Hey everyone, it is Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. I hope you're all staying cool because it is 101 degrees out there right now, or at least that's the heat index. Welcome to our show tonight is Dr. Brenda Thiam, former school teacher, former delegate, now a candidate for lieutenant governor, and also I forgot the most important job, mom.
Oh,
Take it
yeah.
away, guys.
And not former, Dwight. I am still teaching. I am a full-time special ed teacher in Washington County.
He stands corrected.
Yeah.
I love my job so much so that I have to correct that.
All right. Well, ready to go? All right. Let's go ahead and make it happen here then.
Please do.
So David. So this is well. I'm going to start just by saying that. So Dave and I we've done things together before, but not on this particular show. So be kind to us.
I need to be the one asking that request. Be kind to me.
Well, Brenda, tell us a little about your background then. I understand you're born in North Carolina and you came to Maryland.
Yes. Born and
A Marylander by choice.
Yeah. Can you imagine? 30 years ago, I came to Maryland. 1995. I went to college, graduated from North Carolina Central University, best HBCU in the planet. Yes, Eagles. But I'm from Rayford, North Carolina. That's my hometown.
Okay.
Just outside of Fort Bragg, not Fort Liberty, Fort Bragg.
That's right. I understand they rechanged it, but they had to go with a different name, so a different namesake. So it is Bragg, but it's not Braxton Bragg. They picked another Bragg. So
yes.
For me, it just seems that the name is also historic. So that's why it's good to bring back the name.
Yes. That's how I've always known it, just outside of Fayetteville. But yes, I've been in Maryland now for 30 years. And what brought me here was just looking for a new job. Came here with a sister and a brother who were already living in Maryland. I'd come here and visit on the weekends to get away from North Carolina a little bit. And I loved it so much so that I asked my sister, hey, where can I find a job around this place? I'm tired of traveling back and forth. And she told me about a job at her organization where she worked. She currently works there. It's 30 years. She still works there.
Oh, wow.
I applied for the job and I interviewed on one day and got hired. And within a month, I was on my way to Maryland. And 30 years later, I am still here.
Well, it's good in a way you kept the North Carolina accent to some degree.
No, I cannot.
You don't have the Baltimore accent. You don't want that.
You should hear me when I get around my family. I don't think you'd probably understand.
Well, what is it that your main issues? I'm assuming education is your primary concern. I'm sure you have a lot of concerns, but is there something about education that you really bothers you, that you think at night and you think, what the heck is the state doing? What are they doing with our kids?
You know, when I served in the legislature under Governor Hogan's administration, the Maryland Blueprint was up for vote. And I read that bill and read it and studied it inside out. And I had no reservations to vote no on that bill. Number one, it was too costly. Billions of dollars over 10 years, though. I know, educating children must be a priority for our state, but not to the tune of $10 billion. And, I didn't have the heart or the common sense, maybe more so, to not vote for that. I said, no, I can't support this bill. But most importantly, now, since I've been out of the legislature, it's been 3 years now, what really saddens me is the fact that just the focus of education today and what the Democrats see as priority and what their agenda is. I look at our neighboring county, Frederick County, with the policies they're pushing, and we've just got to get back to educating students with basics, ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, definitely some civics. Our students, our children now, they are just not savvy or have the understanding of basic civics and U.S. history. So we've just got to get back to the basics to get them ready for post-secondary outcomes when they graduate at the 12th grade. I mean, Baltimore City, God help them with the scores that they have regarding proficiency in English and math. Students just are not cutting the mustard. And we've just got to get back to educating our students, putting wonderful teachers before them to teach them good instruction to get them ready for college, careers, military, trade schools, get them ready for life after high school.
Yeah, I think that's one of the concerns that colleges have. They think the kids are coming in and they're not really prepared.
Yes, many are
to work
classes to get them ready for general studies.
Yeah, I agree. And someone once said, or last night I heard an educator say that it would almost be nice, maybe we can't do this, if you could go back to education with just pens, paper, book, instead of being in front of a screen as the kids are for 8 hours, 6 hours a day. I don't guess we can get to that, but some people think maybe that's a better way to learn.
I don't even know if we can put it back in the box like that. I think we have just gotten so far in advance with technology and putting young children in the front of screens on their Chromebooks, taking benchmarks on the Chromebook, taking assessments on the Chromebook, taking state assessments on the Chromebook. I mean, many children learn best, and I work with children with special needs, particularly students with autism, many years ago. But some of them do better with pencil, paper type assessment and writing with a pencil. God forbid we in cursive. That you won't find that probably in any public school classroom. Maybe you will, probably not. But teaching children just how to write, the mechanics of writing. But I understand keeping up with technology. I get it, but I don't know. Call me old-fashioned. Maybe I am. Maybe paper pencil is antiquated, it's obsolete. But I think we need to give children some choices. And I guarantee you, some students may fare very well when you put a piece of paper for their benchmark and a pencil before them and allow them to take their test versus that Chromebook.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned cursive. I mean, that was something. I mean, I'm old enough. It's like we had to learn how to do that, right? I mean, that was a mandatory thing. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, and Dave too. I mean, I think Dave, you probably remember those days. But imagine, trying to ask a student to do that. I mean, I think handwriting and penmanship has just gone to hell in a handbasket. Right? As an educator too, I'm curious about, what your take is on AI and what it's doing to the classroom and to education as a whole.
Helps the students cheat, probably.
Oh,
the use of AI.
ChatGPT is in the colleges now. I mean, I have a college student. I hope she's not using GBT to type those papers. I encourage her to use your own thoughts. You read something, use it, summarize it as best as you can, but don't use that as a crutch because, you're graduate. It doesn't even seem like it's a real degree when you graduate. If you use ChatGPT through your whole college life, so what do you really know? Did you really earn that degree?
And can you even think, if I just trust a machine to do the thinking for me?
Absolutely. Yes. It's a bittersweet pill where we are now today in society. It's some good to it, and there's some not so good to it.
Well, Don and I, and maybe you are old enough to remember blue books in college. You'd get the question, you had a blue book, a paper book, and then you'd have to write in the answer and turn in the blue book. So I remember the blue book days.
Right. I don't know. I don't think we're we're much too far apart in age, but I don't remember the blue book.
The blue books, that's what they called them, because the only reason to call it a blue book is it was white paper inside and like a blue harder outside. But those the blue books. But the point is that it's not the writing like it used to be. You're not being forced to write.
It's gotten lost. It's gotten everything is type.
I had a friend who he's more old school than me, and he's a writer, and I'm a writer, and I'm trying to learn. And his argument was, and I don't think I go this far, but he said that he writes things out by hand because he thinks it helps him think and think better. And the thing with a word processor, which I use, but his argument was it's easier for you to the point that you don't have to concentrate quite as hard as if you took a note paper and had to write it out. Because when you write longhand, you're more conscious of avoiding mistakes. When I type away on a computer, word processor, it's easier for me to fix the mistakes. So he thought that maybe it helps him think and sharpen his thinking by writing it out in hand. That's just his thought. It was just his idea.
I absolutely concur with that. Whenever I am like for this evening, just preparing for today, reading over various bills and trying to understand the current bills that came out of the House, just kind of not just reading, but when I wanted to kind of write a summary of the bill, I hand wrote them, because there's some motor planning with that writing piece from the pen hitting the paper to form the letter. There's some connection to the brain that allows you to remember that information a lot more easier versus typing it or just reading it.
Yeah.
Oh yes, absolutely. Writing, though it may take longer, but definitely I'm a writer. I love to take notes and write in the margins of books.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see how this is how the world has changed with this. I mean, when you guys are talking about writing things out longhand, it just reminded me, of Ronald Reagan. He wrote his speeches out. Now the technology wasn't there back then.
Right.
They were kind of forced to do that, but I think he was famous for that, for writing out his speeches. And he delivered some terrific speeches when he was the governor, of California.
Yes.
So there is value with that. It reminds me of my father. I mean, I guess he still wrote a lot of stuff about when he was writing, but his main thing, during the last part of his working years was the IBM Selectric typewriter, right? And the typewriter is kind of the bridge between writing it down, right, and then using a computer. Corrections are harder on a typewriter. You can do it. I don't know if you remember a little correction tape.
Oh, the correction tape. Yeah.
That every time we had office supply order, there was always something. It's like we had to buy like X number of boxes for my father, But he did reach a point. I mean, there's a point where he's like, how many times am I going to try to fix this line or this? You do it once or maybe twice, but then you move on. He said, this. Otherwise, it's kind of like you spend all this time trying to perfect it and do all these things,
right?
And you'll spend hours and hours doing that. He was much better if he just. I think he understood. You write it down, you get it down, you make your initial edit or correction, and then you move on. And then, right?
Yes. Bring back the pencil and paper. Let's ask that as a bill next year.
I agree.
You're an author. I mean, that must have been that's quite a chore to put that all together. But
well, I wrote my dissertation.
Oh yeah.
It is. Part of it for me, though, I know I'm not really practicing what I preach, because for me, I like to use the word processor and all, and I think it'd be even tough for me just to sit there and handwrite. So, but it would help sharpen the mind. I think it's a good exercise to do.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
I'm interested in, with your background, being. Do you find that you get more pressure being? I mean, an African American woman is Republican? Is that kind of tough? I would imagine. See, for me as a white male and Don, it's like, well, we're Republicans, we're conservatives, and society sort of frowns on it, but at the same time, they kind of expect it. For you, it might be tough because they just assume that you are going to be a liberal Democrat. And I wondered if you faced a lot of pressure just because of that.
No, I haven't. Psych.
Okay.
Yes, I have. And
Yeah.
I'll share a quick story with you. When I started in the General Assembly, when I started my first session in 2021. Let's see, I was sworn in October under Governor Hogan. And then my picture was on the General Assembly's website. And you have a biography, who you are and your background. Well, they had a D behind my name.
Yeah.
My minority leader at the time, Nick Kipke, noticed it. And he says, oh, no, they're going to fix this right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe the General Assembly is just sort of accustomed to, okay, Black legislator. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they just assume that, I guess, but still, they should have looked you up. I mean, they shouldn't just.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you know, and I'll be honest with you, I think if I can identify the subgroup of people who have given me the most challenges, for lack of a better word, it would have to be other Black people, white liberal women.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Those are the ones who are constantly in my inbox calling me names.
Wow. Huh.
And, you know, just condemning me. How dare you be a Republican?
Yeah.
And, you know, the researcher in me, I'm like, wow, I would love to do a study to identify why is that the case. White men, Democrat men, they've never insulted me. Oh, at least not in my inbox.
Yeah.
But Black people and white leftist women, they are the two subgroup of people who they use me as a punching bag.
Yeah.
I take it as lotion. You know, I just rub it in, keep it moving. It's become a callus at this point.
Yeah.
They just want.
It's interesting. Yeah, I just thought, you know, that's an interesting perspective that you have on that you experience. I guess it's just sort of, in some ways, I almost think stereotypes people find comforting because it sort of to them suggests sort of the norm, or this is the way it's supposed to be, and you're supposed to be in this group, you're in that group, and I think that's just sort of again something they find maybe comfortable or in a perverse way, sort of like reassuring. I don't know. It's
it doesn't challenge their thought process. Maybe it's the that okay, Black woman.
It also and it goes after their worldview. I mean, their worldview is such that you should be part of this group or that group, and so yeah, it says a lot about that. It says more about them, really. It says a lot about them.
Yes, they're small-mindedness, I guess, in the way they think.
Yeah.
But I just keep it pushing. That's all I can do, David.
Well, that's good. You just keep fighting. Well, just keep, you know, it's like one of those things, you just keep standing up every day. And, you know, as they say, sticks and stones may hurt me, but names, what is it? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Yeah, correct.
Exactly. That's the stride.
I remember hearing that slogan. My grandmother, I remember once I complained about someone calling me a name, and she used that expression. The first time I'd heard that, I was a little kid. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me.
You got it. That's right. Yep.
Brenda, I'm kind of curious. I mean, too. How did you become a Republican?
Well, you know, I'll say I've not always been a Republican. No, let me preface that a little cleaner. I've not always my political affiliation has not always been a Republican, but my values have certainly been very conservative and very Republican. You know, my mom and my dad divorced when I was very young, and my mom raised 5 children by herself. And she raised us in a Christian home. She raised us to respect people. She raised us to don't rely on the government to take care of you. She worked 2 jobs to take care of her 5 children, me and my brothers and sisters. And just the values that she instilled in us as children were very conservative values. You know, believe in God. And again, just don't rely on the government to take care of you. If you can't take care of your family, then do what you have to do. If you got to work a second job, which I've always known her to work a second job, then you do that. But don't rely on the government to send you a check every month. And those are the values that she instilled in us. And how I became a Democrat, I promise you, I have no idea. I have no idea. That's just how I registered with, back in North Carolina. But as I got older and had my own family, married and had my daughter, and started paying a lot more attention to local politics and the city council where I lived, and the county commissioners and the Board of Education, really started paying attention to elected or potentially elected officials, their platform, I realized that with the Democrats, I am like, I don't believe in that, or I don't think we need to make government bigger. I don't think we need more social programs. People need to take care of their families, and don't expect me to, take care of your family while you're on the couch watching TV. And my taxes are paying for you when you're able-bodied and you can work. I don't support that. And it wasn't until in my late 30s that I realized that my values just did not align with my political affiliation. And I decided to make it right. So I changed my political party to Republican in 2012. And it was, one of the best decisions I could have ever done.
It's interesting that you're part of the journey you've made. The ideological is that you also came to Maryland, and it's probably a big step, I think, from North Carolina to Maryland in a sense politically. You're like right in the heart of the sort of the left wokeism, not just Democrat, but wokeism, leftism, social justice type. So, that's been more stark for you probably, because North Carolina, you probably grew up, whether they're Democrat or not, I mean, still in basic conservative values in North Carolina.
Very moderate Democrats. None of this that Democrats are pushing now. There's no way my mom, my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, my church friends, my neighbors would believe in the current practices that the Democrat Party is pushing now. There is no way.
Yeah.
I almost think that, I often wonder now if my mom was still alive. She's no longer with us. She wasn't very involved in politics. She didn't sit us down and say, okay, children, we're Democrats. No, that didn't happen. We didn't have those conversations. I do remember her going to vote, and I recall that. But we never had those conversations about what's Democrat, what's Republican. Like I said, it wasn't until I got older that I just started paying attention. Start paying attention. A lot of people, they don't know what's going on. They don't know who their Board of Ed members are. They don't know who their city council members are. They only go and vote during presidential elections. They don't vote during the gubernatorial elections. They just don't pay attention. We've got to wake up and not wake like Democrats wake. But we've got to be cognizant of what's really going on in politics, certainly at the local level.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I mean, you must have had a fascinating time though in the legislature to kind of see more of the inner workings. I mean, obviously that you didn't get there by chance. You had your central committee had to turn that name in and
Right.
approve you, and so the governor would sign off and then appoint you. You know, that in and of itself is a great accomplishment. You know, I think that helps you. I mean, you're running here for office in Maryland. We definitely need a change because
Right.
it's not going real well right now.
No,
And
it is not.
and so, you know, I'm glad that you've got this experience, you know, behind you to kind of explain these things to people, because as you say, you know, I mean, I've lived here all my life, and I'm in Montgomery County, and it's, you know, at least Washington County, you have a chance of having Republicans, you know.
Yeah.
I will visit you every day.
It's been decades since we had a Republican elected office here.
All right. I lived in Germantown for 7 years.
Oh, okay. You know.
Yes. I bought my home in 2000 and I moved in 2007. But I love Germantown. It was, for the most part, just a beautiful community. I enjoyed it. I was working in DC at the time, commuting back and forth, and I found another job a little bit closer. But yeah, I lived in Germantown for a while prior to moving to Hagerstown in 2006. Yep.
I will say I have been to Washington County. I like it. Actually, very nice county.
It is a
I
nice
do.
county.
I like Washington County. It's one of my favorites in Maryland. I think it's very good. It's like a little bit of an island sort of sanity, so to speak. I mean, at least politically, you get to Washington County. So that's nice. It's a nice county. Very pretty.
It really, very, very scenic out here. Yes.
Yeah,
And
it is good.
it's even more scenic. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes.
Well, are there any other, I know education is your key thing, and it's a very, very important issue. Are there any other issues that you'd like to champion as Lieutenant Governor?
Yes, you know, I've had many conversations with voters as I'm moving around the state, and we've got a still another year. We're just down to just under a year out before the primary election, but having many conversations about, you know, what is wrong with Maryland, and not always what's wrong, but what's going right. But I can promise you, the list is a lot shorter with what's going right when you talk to fellow Republicans.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of people are really shocked by the fact with the budget and the cost of living in Maryland, and retirees who can't afford, they can afford to work in Maryland, they can't afford to retire, and many are leaving the state, or at least threatening to leave the state. And, you know, if you're here and you've worked all your adult life in Maryland, and now it's time for you to retire, and you're forced to retire because you can't afford it, that's just a travesty. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's not right to Marylanders. So looking at the budget, and the increase in the budget is the highest in Maryland's history. And the current governor, Governor Moore, is touting the fact that all of these cuts that were made, and the savings that were able to be garnered. I mean, I don't know. The math is not mathing for me. And many of the people who I talk to.
And you're an educator, so you can tell them your math is
yes,
not right.
2 + 2 is not 4.
Yeah.
His math calculation. Maybe he's doing calculus or something. I don't know. Trigonometry. But that's another thing that's a thorn to a lot of Marylanders, is just the taxes.
Yeah.
And you know, July 1st, there's going to be a few fees that are increasing.
Yeah.
And that's hitting the pocketbooks of Marylanders.
Oh yeah.
And it's just not right. It's not right.
They'll nickel and dime you. That's the thing about taxes, is a lot of times, you know, we don't think about a lot of these things that they throw in there, and it sounds so small, but then you realize how it adds up. It's like you're overtaxed already, and if they just say, well, we just have this little new tax over here and this little new tax over there.
And as I understand it, I don't know how true it is, but coming up in the special session, you know, there are some rumors that the sales tax might increase. And it's like,
yeah,
you know, that's the only way it seems that the Democrats know how to close this budget deficit, is to tax.
Yeah.
And on our backs, and it's not right. We have to look at cutting. Where can we cut? At least the governor made a good decision, I believe, with the most recent cuts. I think it's $121 million, but not filling current vacancies that exist in the state government. Okay, very good thought, though it could have been done a while ago. At least he did that. But just a few months ago, he was touting to the federal government employees who were, out of a job. And I know that's very painful to be out of a job, but touting back, come to Maryland, we'll take you. We have plenty of jobs here. And 3 months later, you're like, oh, never mind about that. No, good leaders, make good decisions based on projections and using data to make those decisions. So
wouldn't it be nice if maybe there's going to be a hypnotist or something, if all of a sudden Westmore wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, we're going to adopt Florida's tax policies.
I mean,
revolutionize the state.
How do they, I asked someone that question who lives in Florida. I'm like, how are you guys making it over there? And you don't pay taxes. What? Well, of course, they have other taxes that are increasingly high or whatever.
Yeah, they have other taxes, but
they have other taxes to compensate that. But
but by having such a favorable tax policy, you can just bring in businesses, high net individuals, and so
that'd be beautiful, just to create jobs that are increase our tax base and make good incomes. You can take care of your family. We're not talking about more McDonald's jobs. We're talking about good pay jobs.
That's right. That's right.
Your wife and 3 kids.
That's right. Yeah. But Don is in a very high tax area. So what for Don and the others there, what about taxes? Your view, well, we've sort of touched on it, but anything specifically really bothers you about tax policy that you'd like to try to change?
Well, I'll be very forthcoming with you. My doctorate degree is in special education. I have a propensity to be able to learn information. I can synthesize it and analyze it and interpret it, make good decisions off that. I am wrapping my brain around the tax codes of Maryland to get really deep understanding. So I'll be working closely, prayerfully, when John Myrick and I win this election next year. John Myrick, of course, is running for governor. He and I work closely with experts in Annapolis, department heads, legislators who are in those committees that can help us come up with the better tax codes or making changes or amending current law to just help Marylanders, just help our state improve and be better. So I'm working closely with John Myrick on what we can do to just improve our tax base.
Yeah, that's true. And I think sometimes also it's not just what's already there. It's also anticipating what they're going to try next and weed that off. There's an old joke. Don would remember this, and you may as well. When we were following politics, Bob Dole's famous joke about Ted Kennedy. And he said, Bob Dole said he got up and he mentioned a joke. He talked about, I hope this doesn't tax your memory. And Ted Kennedy jumped up and said, can we do that? So you just never know what other taxes they might try to bring in. Martin O'Malley came up with a rain tax. I didn't think that was possible.
Yes. As I started to, be a little involved and wanting to pay more attention to state laws and whatnot, and I thought, rain, taxing the rain? What is that? You've got to be.
That was the oddest thing. I remember thinking, what the heck did he come up with here? So
Yes.
But it just seems government's insatiable. Their lust for money and power is like insatiable, and they always find a need. You can never stop finding a need.
And which to Republicans, I don't know. For me, it's just a no-brainer. I look at my own, household budget. I have a very small family. It's me, my husband, and our daughter, who's a rising junior at Howard University. So she's home during the summer months, where she comes home, for breaks, and we have 2 dogs. So pretty small, but we have a budget. My husband and I work. We have a mortgage. We have bills. Certainly, if we spent more than we brought in, our net income, then that's not going to be a good thing. We could go into foreclosure, or cars repossessed, or cable is cut off, cell phone is disconnected. Not to trivialize the state budget, which is billions of dollars, but certainly in my brain, a budget is a budget. You live within your means. What can you afford? If you're going to bring in something new in your home, and looking at the state side, if you want to put more money into the budget for another department, for my home, now I got to look at, okay, now what am I going to cut? My husband, who I like to call the CFO in our home, we look at our budget, and sometimes when I have time, I love to watch TV. That's one of my, moments where I love to watch a good movie. So if I want the cable bill, we'll add HBO Max or Cinemax or Showtime. He'll ask me, okay, so what are we going to cut? What are we going to cut from? Let's look at, what can we cut before we add that extra $50 or $75. And I used to get really upset about that. I'm like, are you serious? It's only $50. And he'd say, $50 is $50. So now I have a better understanding. It makes sense. $50. $50.
Yeah, especially if it's a reoccurring. Well, it's every month. $50. So it's more than just $50.
Well, it's, $600. That's 5 times 12. Yeah. So in our state budget, if we're going to put money with the Department of Veteran Affairs, okay, where are we going to look to cut somewhere else? We can't spend more than we have.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, the problem for me, I guess, is just, politicians, but Democrats in particular, they really don't care about the spending because it's not their money, right? I mean, they think that taxes are always going to be the answer. They don't understand that there is going to be a limit to how much, taxpayers can take the hit and the brunt of. I mean, Dave mentioned, Martin O'Malley, who I think he really wanted to model the state of Maryland after California. He saw California and he thought, that's what I want Maryland to be. And, trying to find as much of the policies of California and put them into Maryland. We had the millionaires tax. Yeah. It's supposed to generate money, but people left the state. Hello. What do you think is going to happen when you do that, right? I mean,
you're going to drive those people out of the state.
Yeah. And the same thing, I think, with Westmore and the state legislature this year, they're as they run roughshod over us, is just that, the surplus that Hogan left behind, they took all that and they use it, here and there and everywhere else. But they don't really think about, the fact that the budget keeps going up. You can look at the state budget, you can look at the federal budget. It's like, why are we spending all this money? I mean, just as that comment, it's like, we want smaller government. We want less taxes. That's the thing to be. I'm kind of in that retiree or close to retiree stage. I'm like, property taxes are a huge concern for me in Montgomery County because all they do is go up.
Yep.
And the county loves to spend the money. The state loves to spend the money, but I don't see anybody granting any relief to the older people who've got homes, but they see the property values go up, which means the property tax is going up. They could change the assessment of that, rate, right, and bring that down a little bit to try to mitigate it. But right now, no, they're just going to rake it in and take advantage of rising home values, and they're going to spend it. And it's just absolutely ridiculous, just what's going on here.
And your most seniors are on a fixed income. They get this amount every month, but their taxes are increasing. So, how does that doesn't fare very well with people who are on a very limited income, who maybe didn't work for, a school system as an educator for 40 years and you've got a good pension with that, and you got your Social Security as well.
Yeah.
Someone who just has Social Security, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to make it. And my mother's line was that you never really own your home because you're still going to have to pay on the taxes on it every year. And like Don said, the value goes up. You just pay more on your property. So
that makes me think of something. I was at an event a couple of weeks ago, and it was at a restaurant in Frederick. And coming out of the restaurant is a small bar area, and I use every opportunity as a time to talk to voters, as a time to meet people. And I shared my campaign literature with some gentlemen that was sitting at the bar. And one gentleman said, I have a great idea for some legislation I would love to see happen. And of course, I'm all ears. He says, my wife and I, we are seniors. We don't have children. Why should we have to pay property tax that helps pay for schools when we don't have children to go to school? Mm-hmm. That's a pretty valid question. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of makes you think when you see people in those type of precarious situations who they're paying their taxes. It doesn't benefit them. It benefits the community. It benefits that school, the elementary school that's down the street from your house. Yeah. I listen to all people who, have concerns. I take a note of it. I write it down in my journal. And you never know. These conversations may turn into some piece of legislation, or at least have some good discussion. You just never know what they may evolve into.
Yeah. I don't know if you're following this, but in New York City, looks like they're about to elect a socialist, crazy nut job mayor. And the reason I bring that up is that it's almost like a death spiral. To some degree, maybe it's happening in Maryland, it's happening in Fairfax County, but that is that they spend so much, they tax so much, eventually people leave. Then when people leave, like New York City, it's like a death spiral because the people who are leaving are people who are paying the taxes, and then so you're losing your biggest taxpayers. So.
Your big taxpayers.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my brain around. I just was watching the news this morning as information was coming in that he's likely going to be has it been confirmed? He is going to be the Democrat nominee.
I guess not. He's close, but they have to do the ranked choice voting to go to the next level. But I think Cuomo's basically conceded. I guess Cuomo knows he's going to end up losing. Oh, but there still is the general election. Am I right, Don? You still will have a general. This is the primary.
Right, so that was the primary. He's going to run. So he has to run against the current mayor. Eric Adams opted to go independent, and then Curtis Sliwa of the Guardian Angels is the Republican nominee. So you get that. But I think in New York, the hope there is that that people after this primary, they will gravitate back towards Adams. The thought of actually electing a socialist will. There was a very conservative. The campaign to get this guy to get elected. They were selling $35 T-shirts that don't rank Cuomo. This is trying to manipulate the whole ranked choice voting thing. Is to make sure he doesn't get ranked in the top 5, so that he could get knocked out. So I hate ranked choice voting, and this is why. One of the reasons why.
No, well, if prayerfully Adams is going to win, though he was a Democrat, he's running as an independent. He seems like he has his head on straight regarding illegal immigrants and all that money they spent with housing them and feeding them, and police and law enforcement defunding of police. He's not on that bandwagon. He seems like he has seen the light.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's hope that New York will re-elect him as their next mayor. Republican, that'll be nice, but in New York,
New York's a rough place.
So, yeah,
New York was always very Democrat. Bill Buckley probably was the closest. Well, actually, Rudy Giuliani was a Republican, squishy sort of, and then Bloomberg technically was a Republican, but I think he did that because the Democrats were going to nominate him, so he ran as a Republican.
right.
Yeah. And de Blasio was bad. What was his nickname? DeCamio. DeCamio, they called him.
Yes, Bill de Blasio. I remember him.
Well,
And-
I think you're a great candidate and have a great shot. I know it's a tough
Yes.
tough area at times. Where you're living is good though. If only the rest of Maryland could be like Washington County, you know.
I know. Yes, but unfortunately, it is not. We have these
Yeah.
huge metropolitan cities,
Yeah.
Baltimore, Prince George's County,
Yeah. Montgomery.
those are the ones that tend to gobble up all these little red counties.
Yeah.
But we just have to be very just how we message, and we meaning John and I, in reaching some of those moderate Democrats who will vote for us in the general.
Yeah.
So that's the hope. When we talk about the facts, what this current administration is doing and how the budget has increased and taxes and fees have increased, just really lay those facts at people's doorstep, that your MVA car registration has increased. It just increased last year. It's increasing again. I think just being factual with people, hopefully they'll see the light and say, you know what? Nope, no more Governor Moore. We're going to vote for Myrick and Cham.
Yeah.
And thank you. You've been a wonderful guest. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah,
But
it does.
if
Thank
you
you.
guys want to meet Dr. Cham in person, and I believe the top of your ticket, John is also going to be joining us next Thursday at Mama Lucia's, where the Republican does pizza and politics. Come on out, see her July 3rd, and ask her questions in person.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Getting a slice of pizza.
Well, yeah.
And Mama Lucia's is really good.
Well,
Not as
thanks.
good as Missoni's, though, but it's good.
I see the Masoni's ad at the end of your videos.
Yeah.
Dwight knows his pizza, right?
Yeah, Dwight
Yeah.
does. Yeah,
Yes, I do.
Dwight won't steer you wrong on that. You can count on Dwight if you tell me where to get pizza.
The homemade pasta. I think I heard that in the.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also make the ice cream there every day, fresh.
Definitely, I'll check it out.
And that is Chris Missoni's family recipe.
Oh, okay.
Good. Well, it's tasty.
Yeah. Okay. Good night, everyone. We'll see everyone again next week. And this Friday, Dr. Politics. Well, actually, I won't be there, but Don and Dave will. I've got to be in Baltimore City, and I'll be there with Brenda.
All right. Yeah, we'll be there together.
Sounds
Dwight.
good.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Good
Have a
night.
good night. Thanks.
See ya.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good
See
one.
you.
Let's go down to Missoni's, where Italian cuisine shines. Let's go down to Missoni's, we'll have a good old time. Homemade pasta at Missoni's, sauce is fresh and fine. Good friends gather at Missoni's, join us anytime. Taste the pizza at Missoni's, with flavor so divine. Bring your good times, appetite, join us anytime. Homemade ice cream at Missoni's, freshly churned each time. Bring your laughter and your friends, joy is what you'll find.